Which set of ordered pairs is a function? In order for a function to be a function, the x values or the domain cannot repeat. I need the one that is a function. So -10, -8, -8. Oh, they repeat. It's not a. -2, 0, 2, and 2. Oh, the 2's repeat. It's not B. 1, 1. Stop right there. It's not C. -1, 0, 1, 2. No repeats on that one. The answer is D. A caterer uses 4 pans of lasagna to serve 30 people. At this rate, how many pans of lasagna does the caterer use to serve 390 people? All right, well, let's do pans to people. Pans to people. We'll say peeps. So 4 pans is to 30 people, as, I don't know, is to 390 people. Now you could use common sense and say multiply 13, which, gives me this. Or you could just do this, which becomes 1,570. I believe, equals 30x, divide by 30, divide by 30. That was actually 1,560. I knew something wasn't right there. Tried to do it in my head and I failed. Regardless, divide everything by 30, divide everything by 30, and you get 5/2. Which is 52. So, 2 ways that you could do it. As long as you don't multiply wrong, you'll do it right. A function of x is graphed on the coordinate plane below. So here's the problem with this guy right here. I try to do -8, can't see it. Try to do -6, can't see it. Try to do -4, can't see it. Try to do -2, really can't see it, but maybe I kind of can. When I do something like 0, I see 6. When I do something like 1, I see 4. When I do 2, I see 2. So every time I go left 1, I go up 2. So if I'm at 6 here, I have -1, +8, and then -1, or -2 rather, +10. So do any of these have -2, +10? You do. My answer is C. It's a really tricky problem where it starts out looking like it should be easy, but it's kind of not. Don't like it. Laura drove her car on 3 trips. She began each trip with a full tank of fuel in her car. The table below shows the relation between the distance driven on each trip and the amount of fuel remaining in the car's fuel tank at the end of the trip. All right, so, okay, pretty basic. Oh, all right, fine. What is the range of the relation in the data? Well, range is just the y values. So I want the relation in the table. I think I said data. I meant to say table. I don't know why I said data. And the table is only giving me 15, 10, and 8. So according to what I have, it's just, that's it, 15, 10, and 8. So there you have it. Since it's only talking about the table, that's going to be my answer. Now in reality, I mean, when she's driving, it should be something greater than 15 to 8, but I don't know what that greater than 15 is. So although it's tempting to say C, it's not C. And it's not just the whole numbers either. It's all the decimals too. So that's the real life answer, but here we're just being asked to find the table alone. Don't overthink it. The answer is A. Paul inherited a stamp collection. Oh, Paul, what a cool dude. Since receiving the collection, Paul has gone to the store and bought the same number of new stamps each week to add to his collection. The equation shown below can be used to determine the number of stamps in Paul's collection X weeks after he inherited the stamps. So without looking at what the question is, all right, he had 40 to begin with. He gets 3 more per week. 40 to begin with, 3 more per week. So let's just see. The stamp collection had 3 stamps in it when Paul inherited it. Nope. So far, Paul has purchased 40 additional stamps for his collection. Nope. Since inheriting the collection, Paul has bought 3 new stamps each week. Looks promising. 6 weeks after he inherited the collection, Paul's stamp collection contains 18 stamps. I don't even know where that came from. So no. So the answer is C. All the books in a bookstore window display today will be mysteries and biographies. The system of inequalities below describes the relationship between the number of mysteries and the number of biographies. So mysteries is X, biographies is Y that a window can display. So what this is saying is that a window has to have a combined less than or equal to 30 books in it. Okay. Also, let's just do this. Let's just divide. Yeah, I take that back. I don't want to divide it. Also, 2 times the amount of mysteries that I have must be smaller than 3 times the amount of biographies that I can have. So which description is a possible number of books of each type that could be in the display? Okay. Not a fan of it, but let's just use common sense. Let's just plug stuff in to make sure that we're good. First things first, I have to make sure that I have less than 30 books total. Okay, so and the reason why is this was that. So I have to have less than 30 books. So A follows that. 15 and 8 follows that. 21 and 14 is too many books, and 24 and 12 is too many books. So A or B are the only possibilities that we have. Now that's done. This has to be true if I do this. X is mysteries. So 2 times 6 mysteries has to be less than or equal to 3 times 22 biographies, which is true. So A is my option. If I were to try that out on B, if I were to do 2 times 15, which is 30, it's got to be less than or equal to 3 times 8, which is 24. I'm not going to get something that's a true statement. So B doesn't work. A is the only option that does, and that's my answer. A graph of a system of inequalities is shown below. All right, here you go. We got some double shading going on there. Which of the system of inequalities describes that graph? Well, this looks a lot worse than it actually is, and this is why it's not so bad. These are solid lines, okay? Solid, not dashed, which means you're out of the question, you're out of the question. So that only leaves these guys. So maybe what I'll do is I'll take U, I'll solve U for Y, and see what we end up with. So we've got 4x plus 3y is greater than or equal to 24. Let's subtract 4x from both sides, minus 4x. That gives me 3y is greater than negative 4x plus 24. Divide everything by 3. And now we have negative, put that over here, y is greater than or equal to negative 4/3 x plus 8. Now, graphing that would look like this. Put a dot at 8, go up 4 over 1, or in this case, down 1, 2, 3, 4, right 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 blah. You shade above, so this looks promising. So right now, choosing B was a good idea. So let me get rid of all this stuff and try the second equation, make sure the second equation works out just fine. Or do I even have to? Nope, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop because I know it's B. I know it's B because according to this guy, I would have to shade below. This is shade above. So the answer is B because D simply will not work. So I'm calling it quits right there. So in this case, it's kind of like, let's eliminate the ones that definitely don't work out. And once you start doing B and realize that this symbol is not the same as this symbol, you're going to find your answer is B. Not a big fan of it, but what are you going to do? They don't pay me the big bucks to do things I love. Pardon my language, but holy cow. An inequality is shown below. For which values of A and B make the inequality true? So it's just a matter of taking turns and plugging it in and finding out which one's true. I'll tell you what I will do. I'm going to skip C because the 0 is probably going to turn that into 0 is greater than 0, which that's exactly what it'll do. So I'm not going to deal with C, but everything else is fair game. So let me try this. I'm not going to try the ones. Not yet, because in my head I could do 1 times 1, which is 1, 1 cubed. I get 4, and 4 is not going to be greater than 15 times 1 cubed times 1. So I already know that A is out because I just did it quickly in my head. So let's just go with B. All right, let's just go with B. I have 4 times 1 times 2, so 1 times 2, and then put that into the brackets, right? I've got to show that that is greater than 15 A to the third, so 1 to the third times 2. All right, so inside these parentheses, I have 1 times 2, so 4 times 2 to the third. Those brackets don't need to be there anymore. 2 to the third is 8, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8, not 6, and 4 times 8 is 32. I need to show that 32 is greater than whatever this is. So PEMDAS says do the 1 first, so 15 times 1 cubed, which is 1, times 2. It's going to be 15 times 1, which is 15, times 2, which is 30. Is 32 greater than 30? Sure is. So this problem started off looking awful, but really wasn't that bad. Not that bad at all. Oh my gosh, look at this thing. An equation involving polynomials is shown below. Whoa, what are the values of A and B? Okay. All right. Well, first things first, let's try to simplify as much as we can on the left side, see if things disappear, see what happens. I guess maybe what could be done is just plugging these in, but I don't know. I'm hoping some type of magic will happen. Nothing is in front of these parentheses, so I don't need a parentheses. Similarly, since there's nothing in front of that parentheses, the parentheses don't matter. If there's just a plus sign in front of the parentheses also don't matter. But with this guy, I need to distribute the negative, which means you flip every side inside the parentheses. So there you go. That's got to equal 2x plus y. So I have ax, which kind of combines with 3x. I'm not going to deal with that, not yet. But what I do have is I have an a, or just 1x, minus 3x, which gives me negative 2x. So we'll do negative 2x, and I'll put ax kind of right there. All right, let's get a different color going on here. We've got 5y minus regular y, which is 4y. And then we've got, let me keep it red, plus b, y. That's got to equal, now let me bring back my colors, 2x, which I'll keep in black so it looks like my x values, plus a regular y, which I will keep red. So this is how I'm going to view it. All right. A minus 2x has got to match up with 2. So a minus 2 has got to equal 2. A minus 2 has to equal 2. If I add 2 to both sides, that gives me a is 4. So kind of what I did is I'm like, all right, so I need to make ax's, so something x's minus 2x has to equal 2x. So if that a was 4, 4x take away 2x gives me 2x, so A has got to be 4, which eliminates U and eliminates U. I'm going to do the same thing with this. This is basically saying 4y's plus some random number's got to give me 1y. All right, so 4 plus B has to equal 1. If I subtract 4, if I subtract 4, B is going to equal -3, which gives me A. Really advanced problem. Really advanced problem. That's not something you would see in a regular traditional Algebra 1 class. So with a problem like this, they're looking for the best of the best of the best of the best. So I didn't like it. Neither should you. Four values are listed below. We have a seventh. We have 20%. We have the square root of 0.5. We have the absolute value of 0.5, which list shows the values in order from least to greatest. All right, well, the thing that we need to do is we need to turn all of these into decimals, or at least that's what I would do. So let's do that. 1/7, okay, I have already in black, is 0.14 blah, 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 blah. 20% as a decimal, no calculator needed for that one, is 0.2, or I'll put 0.20 so we can keep it consistent with two decimal places. The square root of 0.5 is 0.707, so we'll say 0. Oh, an angel just got its wings. 0.71. And the absolute value of anything, it just becomes its positive self, so 0.5. So the smallest one of these is the first one, the 1/7. So that eliminates U, and that eliminates U. After that, we are looking at 0.20, so that leaves us as 20%, and then the rest is just the rest. So C is going to be my answer based off of what I have, but yeah, these first two guys are my first two, least to greatest, and then 0.5, maybe I should have put 0.50, will come before 0.71. So it's just a matter of, this is a calculator section problem. It's a matter of throwing everything you can into your calculator, maybe turning it into two, maybe three decimals, whatever works for you, and then finding out smallest to largest. That's it. Simplify. A quadratic divided by a quadratic. Whenever I see something like this, I'm thinking factor thoughts. This right here, the fact that it tells me that x can equal -2 and -1 is going to help me out with my answer in the denominator. We'll get there. Let's focus on the numerator first. Let's factor this out as much as we can. Immediately, I see a 3, and a 6, which means I should be able to factor out a 3. If you see a quadratic, you're thinking factor thoughts, and maybe you can pull a number out, which I can. X squared. If I pull a 3 out of 3x squared, I get x squared. If I pull a 3 out of 3x, I get just an x. And if I pull a 3 out of -6, I divide, which is -2. Then we'll have a fraction bar. Now I need to come up, I'm not done yet. I'm probably not done yet. I need to come up with two numbers that add up to invisible 1, but multiply out to -2. And so I'm thinking those two numbers would be +2 and -1. So x plus 2 and x minus 1. These guys add up to positive invisible 1 and multiply out to -2. That's my numerator. Now let's take care of the denominator. Again, these are hints, but let's not deal with that right now. I could probably bring out a 6, and there's no probably about it. I can bring out a 6 because a 6 is divisible from 6, 18, and 12. By dividing a 6 out of this guy, I'm left with x squared. By dividing a 6 out of 18x, that gives me a 3x, and dividing a 6 out of regular old 12 is regular old 2. Now I need to come up with two numbers whose sum is 3, adds up to 3, but multiplies out to 2, so let's go with 2 and 1. Now again, this has a factor of x plus 2 and x plus 1. It tells me that x is not allowed to be negative 2 and allowed to be negative 1. Why does that kind of help me figure this part out? Well, if I plugged in negative 2, this whole thing becomes 0, which makes the whole thing become 0, and you can't have 0 in the denominator. Same thing with negative 1. So if you notice that, then good for you. And if you didn't, no big deal. It's not going to matter anyway. But what I can do is, since I have something times something times something on the top and something times something times something on the bottom, I can eliminate any somethings that are exactly the same. But that's not all. I notice that I have a 3 up here and a 6 down there, so I can simplify 3/6 to 1/2. So that gives me x minus 1 on top and 2 times the quantity x plus 1 on the bottom. Now wait. If you're thinking, can I eliminate the x's and eliminate the 1's? Nope. Because that minus sign makes these guys two completely different things. So my final answer is going to be C. Nothing else. So 1/2 looks like it should be promising if you want to get rid of stuff. But even if you were to get rid of an x and a 1, you still have that negative floating around, which you only really see in C and D. So pretty typical simplifying fractions that are factors and stuff and polynomials and things and stuff and things. I like that stuff. Fun. Joan has a gym gift card. Try saying that 3 times fast. It's worth $100. Each time she visits the gym, $12 is deducted from the amount remaining on the gift card. Which equation can be used to determine the amount of money in dollars remaining on the gift card after Joan visits the gym D times? So we start out with 100. We take away 12, D times, and that's the amount of money that she has. So which one of these matches that? How about D, speaking of D? Just not written in the way that I'd want it to be written in. But again, if we're reducing $12 deducted from each visit and M is total, that's really the only one that makes sense. So I'm sticking with it. I like it. The equation below describes the relationship between the number of months X since a customer began renting a storage unit and the total amount of money Y in dollars the customer has paid to the storage facility. All right, so the total amount of money that's paid is 15X, which probably means $15 per month, plus 30, which means you probably pay $30 straight up. Which statement describes a solution of the equation based on the number of months the customer has rented? So it's giving me some options here where I rent for a certain amount of months and I pay a certain amount of money. Now let's get rid of the ones that are obviously incorrect. Like B. B says after all these years, you only pay $16 for a storage unit? No way. No. After all these years, you only paid $6. No. So B and D definitely don't make sense. A and C are like, well, let's test out 16 months. So let's do that. Y equals 15 times 16 plus 30. 15 times 16 is 240. 240 plus 30 is 270. So C is my guy. Yep. Pretty straightforward. No tricks about it. Tricks are for kids anyway, so, because of the cereal. Answer C. Charlene owns a bookstore. She purchases used books from customers. She pays $3.50 for each hardback book. She pays 75 cents for paperback books. Charlene pays a customer a total of that much for 149 used books. So whenever you're given what is obviously a system of equations type problem, usually what you're going to deal with is cost, like a cost formula, and a total formula. So they're using hardback is X. So if hardback's X, my cost formula is going to be 350X. If paperback is y plus 0.75y is going to equal the total amount that she paid, which is that $199, blah, blah, blah. I ran out of room. The other equation is going to be your total, which is x plus y equals 149. So eliminate 2 and eliminate 2. So 350x, and that's my guy. That's my 1. That's my answer. The answer is D. So this is pretty typical for a system of equations word problem. And with system of equations word problems, you have a cost equation and you have a total equation. So this is my cost parts and this is my total part. And I like totals. Remember that kid? The zombie kid? Remember it? The answer is D. Gloria is considering 2 different movie services. Service A charges $15 monthly for unlimited streaming of movies and $2.50 per DVD rental. This is an old test. Service B charges $12 monthly fee for unlimited streaming of movies and $3.50 for DVD rental. The system of equations below describes the relationship between the number of DVDs rented per month and monthly cost. Which statement about the cost of the movie services is true? So only A, B, and C here. So let's just solve the system of equations. I'm trying to think if there's any way that I can do this. No, not really. No way of being cute. I'm going to use the blob method of substitution. Y equals that guy, so let's just shove that right there. 15, don't need the 0.00 plus 2.5x equals that guy. 12, don't need the 0.00 plus 350x. I'm going to subtract 2.5x from both sides minus 2.5x from both sides. That gives me 15 equals 12 plus 1x. Subtract 12. And x equals 3. So when Gloria rents 3, because x is DVDs, per month, when Gloria rents 3 DVDs per month, either service will cost $22.50 per month. Well, let's make sure that that's the case. Let's find out what y is if I do that. So let's erase u. Let's plug in x for one of these. I'm not sure which one's easier. Probably the top one because I can handle 250 in my head a whole lot easier. Y equals 15 plus 2.5 times 3, which is 15 plus 7.5, which is 22.5, or if we're talking about money, let's put a dollar sign there. And my answer is going to be A. So when Gloria rents 3 DVDs per month, U, either service will cost $22.50 per month, U. And the reason why it's both services is because if Y is service and if Y is service, these services are the same as far as cost when I set them equal to each other. So both of these services cost the same amount right here and right here. I don't even need to look at the others. I'm done. An inequality is shown below. 5x minus 6 is less than 4 plus 6x, which is a graph of the solution set of the inequality. Well, let's just pull that aside and solve it. That's pretty much all we have to do here, I guess. Let's subtract 6x from both sides. All right, with inequalities, I like having my variable on the left, even though this will give me a negative. So negative, we'll put 1x, because why not? Minus 6 is less than 4. Let's add 6 to both sides. Let's add 6 to both sides. Negative 1x, even though it looks sloppy, is going to equal 10. That's where you got to be careful. I have to divide both sides by a negative or negative 1. Whenever you divide an inequality by a negative, you flip the sign. So so x is greater than negative 10. Don't include the negative 10. None of these do. This is the only one. These two are the only ones that care about negative 10. And since it's greater than, I'm going to the right, which means B is my guy. Okay? Pretty standard inequality with variables on both sides of the inequality. I like it. A part for a machine must meet certain length requirements in centimeters, as shown in the inequality below. Which statement completely describes the length requirements for this machine part? Well, let's solve it. All right, whenever you have an absolute value inequality, you have to try to get the absolute value all by itself. Well, it is. All right, so once that's done, you split it into two parts. In each part, you have the left side exactly the way it is without the absolute value. On one of the inequalities, after you split it, you keep the sign and the right side exactly the way it is. The other one, flip the sign and make that opposite, or in this case, negative. So negative 0.25. Let's subtract 6.75, subtract 6.75. Don't know why I went in this order. Too late, though. Negative x is going to be greater than negative 7. Divide both sides by negative 1, and regular x, flip the sign, is less than 7. Same thing over here. Subtract 6.75. Subtract 6.75 from both sides. Negative x is less than negative 6.5. X divided by negative 1 is greater than 6.5. Now, this is a less than symbol. Whenever you have the distance has got to be less than stuff, it's an and statement. So I care about stuff bigger than 6.5 and smaller than 7. Okay, so the length of the part must be less than 7. Well, that's half true. Doesn't say anything about it having to be bigger than 6.5. The length of the part must be greater than 6.5. Well, that's half true. It doesn't say anything about being less than 7. The length of the part must be less than 6.5 or greater than 7. Well, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because that includes negatives, and I could have a part that's like 1 billion centimeters long. That doesn't make sense. I don't like that. The length of the part must be greater than 6.5 and less than 7, and that's my guy. The answer is D. Ooh, I like it. Kang creates a painting on a rectangular canvas with a width that is 4 inches longer than the height, as shown in the diagram below. Kang Kong ain't got nothing on me. It's a movie, look it up. Write a polynomial expression in simplified form that represents the area of the canvas. Well, an area of a rectangle is going to be length times width. So in this case, you're going to do h times h plus 4. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you do first. H times h is h squared. H times 4 is 4h. So the polynomial expression in simplified form that represents the area of the canvas is going to be h squared plus 4h. Okay, that's part A. Pretty straightforward. Don't go too crazy over it. Pretty straightforward. Let's go back, make sure that I have the picture in my head. Okay, so I have h plus 4 and h. Okay, h plus 4, a perfect rectangle, and h. Kang adds a 3-inch wide frame around all sides of his canvas. It's going to be a huge frame, especially in comparison. But what that does is that extends this guy out 3 inches, that out 3 inches, which makes this whole width h plus 3, which is h plus 10. Okay. And along with that, you have h go 3 that way, go 3 that way, h plus 6. Write a polynomial expression in simplified form that represents the total area of the canvas and the frame. So that's going to be this whole thing, h plus 6 times h plus 10. So that's going to be FOIL, h plus 6 times h plus 10. Okay, first, which is h times h, h squared. Outer, which is h times 10, 10h. Inner, which is 6 times h, 6h. Last, which is 6 times 10, 60. Combine the like terms in the middle, and you have h squared plus 16h plus 60. So ding, ding, ding. Angels are getting their wings. So you have that. That's my guy. That's my answer. Simplified form. It's a FOIL problem. Bada bing. Last but not least, Kang is unhappy with his 3-inch wide frame. Kang! So he decides to put a frame with a different width around this canvas. The total area of the canvas and the new frame is now given by a brand new polynomial. So let's take a look at the old one. It was h and h plus 4. All right, so this is the old one. H plus 4. Now I have a simplified form of h squared plus 8h plus 12. H represents the height of the canvas, okay, like it always has. Determine the width of the new frame, show all your work and explain why you did each step. Or explain why you did each step. Well, step number 1, I'm going to factor. Okay, I'm going to factor. This becomes h, so I need to come up with two numbers that add up to 8, multiply out to 12, and that gives me 6 and 2. Okay. If I compare this, so that means, okay, this means I have this picture now. Okay, where common sense tells me that this is h plus 2 right here, and this is h plus 6. So if I add 2 inches total, then the new width is going to be 1. So my answer is 1 inch, because if I add 2 inches total, 1 inch is going to be the length of each, I guess, side of the frame. So that's what I'm supposed to do here. And I explained it probably a little sloppy here. Maybe I'd want to explain it better on paper. But there you have it. There's a constructed response problem about Kang.